You know what I love to paint? Tons of crap. Belts, pouches, details on details, so over-designed, I don't even know what I'm looking at. Thank God these sculptors use ZBrush like they're designing high-budget Hollywood movie costumes, not 1-inch tall figurines that another human being has to actually paint. I love it! I love it. I don't love it. I've got to admit, lately I've been getting a little burnt out by painting models that have so many tiny little frickin' details. And I don't know about you, but the things that excite me in painting a model are the main surfaces. Wicked demon skin, gnarly blades, flowing capes. But when I move from painting those onto all the tiny little fiddly bits that all require a different color, I just lose complete momentum. So today I'm going to get my mojo back by painting some fantastically characterful minis that have been sculpted with restraint. They come from the game Relic Blade, one that I demoed and fell in love with last year at Adepticon. I'd been planning on doing a video on Relic Blade for quite a while now, and when I heard about Other Games April, where content creators highlight other smaller games, I thought, what a perfect fit. But when I put this on my calendar, apparently I miscounted the number of days in April because it was scheduled for April 35th. Not knowing how to count has never stopped me before, so we'll just call this #MathFailMay. Now these models are all metal and cleanup is fairly straightforward. Just make sure that when you clip off these extra bits of metal, you save them later to fill your cavities. If you have any bendy bits, they're easy to bend straight again. And then I just used really small jeweler's files to take care of any mold lines or any inconsistencies in the metal, and we're ready to paint. Important detail, I only use Gorilla Super Glue gel for metal minis. I never have had to pin with this stuff because it's so stinking strong. I'm going to attempt a very bright, vibrant color scheme for these models. And for that, I need a nice, bright primer. No black primers here. I like to use AK Interactive's gray primer. It's really light without going to pure white. I find that white primers tend to be a little bit chalky, but this stuff is perfect. The reason I like a light primer when I'm going with a vibrant paint scheme is because black really dulls down the colors that are on top of it, and you're going to need a lot of coats to get full opacity. With a light primer, you really get to hit the ground running and get the paint vibrant really quick. And speaking of bright colors, this is an excuse for me to test out a new paint range by Broken Anvil Miniatures. This should be coming to Kickstarter in the next week or so. This is 40 colors, and they're all super vibrant, super opaque, super in your face. And I really want to see how well they work, and now is the time to test them. As we start our base coats, you can immediately see the value of that light primer. The colors pop with just one coat, but to be sure, I'm going to put 2 thin coats on just to make sure I get full coverage of those vibrant colors. And this first coat is going to be our mid-tone, so I don't want to go too dark here or desaturated at all. If I want these miniatures to be nice and vibrant, this base coat needs to really pop without being too bright or too dark. I like to treat this step almost like a coloring book. I'm just having fun painting each surface, and I'm trying to stay between the lines. Making mistakes is not the end of the world, but the cleaner we work on this step will make our life a whole lot easier and a whole lot quicker for the rest of the paint job. This is also a great practice for brush control, something I talk about a lot in my videos. The more we try to be exact with our paintbrush, the better we're going to get at it. Now, just using vibrant colors alone is not going to make our miniatures pop. We really need to define each and every one of these shapes with additional vibrant colors, and that starts with shadows. Sure, you could put a wash over each and every one of these surfaces, but that's just going to muddy down our entire mini, and it's going to be more work for us to build up those coats for the base color yet again. Instead, I go through and line out with a nice dark color each of the surfaces that would be in shadow. And for this, I do not recommend using pure black. Instead, I'm going to find a dark yet still saturated color. One thing we really want to use to our advantage here is the fact that dark paints can thin down and still give us a nice opaque layer. I'm going to make sure that my paint is thinned down to just about the consistency of water, but it's still fully opaque. If it starts to get translucent at all, you've thinned it down too much. Add a little bit more paint into that mix and get it back to its fully opaque, yet still runny. As hobbyists, we're familiar with overpriced tools that don't actually do anything innovative, and unfortunately, that trend goes beyond just miniature painting. Luckily, today's sponsor, Harry's, has your back, and legs, and face, armpits, really anything you want to shave. Harry's amazingly affordable trial set includes a razor, shaving gel, and a blade cover. And because they've been making blades in their factory in Germany for over 100 years, you know you'll be getting a fair factory direct price. Nothing more, nothing less. I've been so impressed by the silky smooth shave that these razors give that I'm kicking myself for not trying them sooner and saving myself a ton of money. So if you aren't already using Harry's, now is the time to start. Click on the link down below in the video description to get a Harry's trial set for just $5. That's right, $5 for a better shave at a great price. A big thank you to Harry's for sponsoring today's video, and don't forget to get your $5 trial before it's gone. One thing that I do that really helps me out is I use a small brush. I prefer a size 0 brush for this work because it kind of takes away some of the difficulty of just hitting with that little tiny tip on my fat brush, and instead the entire brush is tiny. And I'm working with thin paint, so it's not going to dry on the end of the brush very quickly, and it will still flow off that nice small tip. One thing I've learned that really sells this effect well for shadows is to make sure that you put a nice dark line around all of the surfaces where they meet another material. This really separates the two surfaces for our eye, and it makes sure that they really pop out and you can see all the details with this nice dark line. When it comes to highlighting, we have to be careful because if we don't do it correctly, we can actually undo all that nice, vibrant color that we've just created. When you're mixing a highlight or you're picking a different color to use as a highlight, don't use anything that's got a lot of white in it. And that can include things like off-white blues and even off-white yellows. This ice yellow color is really common and popular, and I use it a lot in certain painting styles, but for here, it's not vibrant enough. Instead, I'm going to mix in nice, vibrant colors like a peach, a bright lemon yellow, or even this bright pink into my base color and get my highlights built up from there. You'll be surprised how much this keeps that punchy vibrancy color, but we still know what true color the surface is based on our base coat. Oh, and for highlighting cool colors, I like to use something like a bright sky blue, or a nice lime green, or even a nice bright magenta. I often find the best way to pick out the highlight color to mix in is just look at your paint shelf and see which bright color stands out to you, because that one probably will be a good vibrant highlight color. I don't want to spend 10 hours on each one of these models, and luckily for us, this animated style of painting doesn't require us to have silky smooth blends. I'm not worrying about that at all. All I'm doing is going through with the standard layer consistency of my paint, and I'm placing the highlights based on the volumes of the shape that I'm painting. I'm going smaller on the first highlight, and again, smaller on the second, brighter final highlight. And your final brightest highlight should be more like punchy lines on edges and raised bits. This is the yin to your shadow lines yang. Once you get both that shadow and these brightest highlights in place, the piece really starts to look like a cartoon come to life. Now, in between painting a couple other models in my spare time, as well as the models for this video, I've kind of gotten a pretty good handle on this paint range. Overall, the thing that impresses me the most is how vibrant these colors are and how well they coverage for being so bright. That's not something that's common at all in miniature paint. I also like that it's a set of 40 colors, so it's not a massive collection, but because there's almost no white and gray and black mixed into each of these colors, they all mix amongst themselves really well to still create nice, interesting, vibrant colors. So I don't feel like I need to own 200 paints to really be able to make whatever color I need. I do think the paints are a little bit thinner coming directly out of the bottle than I prefer. I like to have my paint to have a little bit more body to it, but it still covers really, really well, and this won't hold me back from integrating these colors into my regular paint rotation. One thing I really love about Relic Blade is it's a true labor of love. It is an indie game. The person that wrote the lore and the world, the person that wrote all the rules, the person that does all the art, and the person that sculpts all the models is one man, Sean Sutter. And while we work through those same few steps to try to keep up the vibrancy and see how well we can pull off this animated art style, I'm going to bring you in on a little conversation that I had with Sean recently, because I really think it would be neat for you to see his interesting perspective on the miniature hobby. So you sculpt all of your miniatures by hand, right? Do you use any kind of 3D software as well?
I do all digital.
Okay, you're all.
Yeah, all digital. I use the digital like it's a traditional material. I'll make a sphere and squish it into shape. And so I'm really working at like little blobs of green stuff or blobs of putty or clay rather than using more 3D modeling, like engineering style, where you'd like create a shape and extend it, and really just like smashing stuff into place and shaping it to get it the right form. And so they come out looking more traditional
Mm-hmm.
than something that's like more video gamey in the workflow. Yeah, or not. What I mean is like so that you can do 3D modeling in a way that is super technical,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do infinite detail.
Mm-hmm.
But I really approach it right from the like 1 inch tall figure in a pose. So my workflow is very traditional, even though it's all digital stuff. And like if I had to do the materials work of sculpting traditional, I probably wouldn't be doing this because that's not what excites me. Like how sticky the clay is isn't what excites me about the project.
Like you said, so many models that are made these days, especially for that are designed for 3D printing, they look great in the renders. They look like amazing characters for like a video game. But when you sit down at your desk with a paintbrush and that thing attached to your paint holder, it's too much.
You can make detail really fine, right? And I think hands are a really good example because you can make a hand that's articulated in a 3D model and then like pose them different ways and then have those hands in a little library and be ready to put them on any model you do. And I used to like sculpt the hands. Like I think there's even a YouTube video of me like sculpting the hand finger by finger. But now what I'll do is I'll like start with a sphere and like mash it and shape it and like do as few as I can to try and get that like real in the moment, the feeling, the emotion, the like movement of the hand, and try and really approach it from an artistic standpoint rather than that technical standpoint.
Earlier, Sean, we were chatting before we started recording, and you said something that I'd never heard before that kind of blew my mind. So I want to see if you can reiterate it. And that is the thought behind your work from concept art to sculpting to making a real physical object is not done, it's not completed until the collaboration with another human.
I really like really my art, a big part of it is about that like human interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and the art that I make is only when I sell it is only like 90% done. Maybe less depending on if you got the books with it or not. But the idea is that I've created this world of Relic Blade. I've invited you into it with the artwork. I've invited you into it with lore and rules and ways to interact with it. But those model kits aren't done until I am collaborating with you, the gamer, the player, the painter, the collector, because these unpainted kits, it's like part of the core of it is that it's not finished and it isn't done until you put it together and you paint it and you put that last touch on it. And so each iteration, each figure that gets painted is to me in by intention and by design a collaboration with you as the artist. And that end result is going to be like an amazing iterative process of creating new and exciting things that couldn't have existed just by me.
A massive thank you to Sean for taking some time out of his very busy day and probably packing up packages in his garage to chat with me. I really find that every time I talk to Sean, I get a new excitement. It rebuilds my passion because of the passion he has for this hobby. And I really had a ton of fun trying out this vibrant animated paint style, and I'm excited to get 1 or 2 full warbands all painted up for Relic Blade because me and a couple of buddies are going to start playing soon. There's so many games and minis out there with a unique art style or direction or something new they bring to the table that really are worthy of time on our painting desk. I'm definitely looking forward to spending more time in the future taking Sean's advice and helping see an artist's vision come to fruition by ending the entire process with a painted model on my painting desk. And I hope some of you will as well. Thanks again, and a special thanks for those of you that support me by buying my merch in the links below, or the gear that I use in my miniature painting setup. Those support the channel, as well as those that support me over on Patreon. You really don't understand how much that means to me. That allows me to continue to produce these videos. Now, I'm going to see you back here again next week for another video, and sometime between now and then, make sure you find time in your day to slay the gray.
I'm heartbroken. I'm looking up here. My pet spider seems to be on her way out. I've had her for over a year, and like, spiders don't live that long, I guess.
Hush, hush, hush. Harry's amazingly affordable trial set includes a razor, shaving gel, and a blade cover.